Welcome to another video by Rick Miracle. This is my series, The New World Order, 2019 media and press releases. And I've been watching some videos and doing some research. And the question that comes in my mind is, what the heck is going on? Apparently, there are some beings from behind the veil. Some people say satanic, luciferic forces involving the Kabbalah, mysticism, witchcraft, secret societies. And you have some people like Corey Goode here talking about alien beings. So I have a series of clips I've made from different YouTube videos, trying to put together a short story, a synopsis maybe, of what's going on, what has gone on, and what's prophesied to come. It's quite bizarre. So take a look at this clip.
Exactly why they're here. So the Anshar, they're fourth density, they're us in the future. They live in an underground civilization, and they've been in a timeline war against the reptilians for tens of millions of years. And I heard a little bit more about the future that I'm going to share later on about what occurred with the reptilians, how the reptilians were in servitude to this artificial intelligence. The reptilians are infested with nanites and are pretty much slaves themselves. And that all ties in at the end. The Blue Avians are part of the Sphere Being Alliance. They're sixth density beings, and as we've been speaking about recently, they were part of this ancient builder race, this ancient builder race was a conglomerate group that had a vast empire in our local 52 stars about close to 2 billion years ago. And they have stated that they're responsible for delivering the Law of One information, as well as several other teachings here on Earth. But I'll go into also more details about what they've said about all of our distortions and how we filter information and even how I deliver information.
The Law of One information, is that coming from Ra, R-A? Was that channeled information? A psychic communicating with some beings they can't see?
Through my own distortions. Now, they have claimed that they are the messengers and facilitators of the one infinite creator. And the realm they come from, we would basically consider an angelic realm. So we could basically...
So he's talking about an angelic realm. Remember, there's two types of angels: the angels in heaven and the fallen angels. Just saying.
Consider them angelics, I would say. Okay, now this is where we're going to talk about the filters, because how many people have read the Law of One? Okay, and how many people think they understand distortions, what distortions are? Excellent. For those who don't, and I've used this metaphor before, so bear with me. When we begin this life, we come in with no memory, nothing. We have to rebuild we have to re-experience and rebuild who and what we are. So we have nothing around us except for little bits and pieces of information. We're constantly looking and picking those little bits and pieces of information, pieces of sand, and we're taking that information and that experience and we're putting it in a little dish and we grind it together, and then we make a little lens out of it, and that's how we look at the world and information.
Except, of course, now, with the secret societies and the controlled media, TV programming, the communist, Zionist, satanic forces controlling the education system, medical system, the economy, and every other aspect of our reality. A lot of people are seeing, but they don't see. A lot of people are hearing, but they don't hear. A couple quotes from the Bible. So what is the truth? So like I said, I have pre-recorded a lot of clips, and I'll be playing them in a particular order, hopefully telling a sort of a story that maybe can trigger our memories, and we could try to figure out, WTH, what's going on in our reality.
Freemasonry is a topic that has been more and more analyzed by academic researchers, because there is a lot of interest. The Freemasons in the past 300 years have been vinculated, have been associated with the most important developments, social, economic, and political developments in many parts of the world. So definitely these people see in the study of Freemasons a window of opportunity to go deeper into that. And I'll give you an example of what we do in Masonic research, because I'm part of that movement too, if I get time there. Hopefully I will finish tonight, and if I don't, maybe the Livingston Library will give me another opportunity next year to do whatever was not concluded today, and so on. So let's have a little bit of background about Freemasonry. Last year, in 1770, Freemasonry arrived in 2070. It arrived to its 300th anniversary because the first...
He meant to say 2017.
The Grand Lodge of London was founded in 1717. When on the 24th of June, the equinox and also the St. John's Day, the four London lodges met to create the first Grand Lodge.
He mentions the equinox, also known as a occult holiday, solstices and equinoxes, occult holidays, Kabbalah holidays, secret society holidays, witchcraft holidays. You get it.
This has been questioned by some recent researchers that say that it was not in 1717, that it was in 1721. Well, so what? I mean, what is important is that Freemasonry was created, and its effects, its impact in society, what it brought into the world is here. And at that time, there were few records kept. Most of those records were either destroyed, burned, whatever else. So if it is true that it was 1721 and not 1717, that's fine with me.
Several times in the last 300 years, Freemasonry has been exposed. In one case, a courier over there in Germany, lightning struck him, of all things, and when the police investigated and looked in his pouch, there were plans for a new world order. And even in the United States, Freemasonry was looked upon poorly, especially after the assassination of Captain Morgan and the conspiracy cover-up about 100 years ago. So Freemasonry fell out of favor, and a lot of them moved over to the newly created organization, the Mormons. But he is saying that a lot of these things that they brought into the world, Freemasonry has been responsible for. And for what I can see, what's brought into the world, if they want to take credit for it, let them, because what's going on now is quite horrible. All the wars, French Revolution, Russian Revolution, Chinese Revolution, assassination of presidents, World War I, World War II, 9/11. So I tell this gentleman, good luck with taking credit for all these things. It's not good for humanity.
Before 1717, there were lodges, and they were, especially in England and Scotland and in the Irish island, because the business of building castles and cathedrals started drying up.
So Masonry existed before 1717, and I think a few years later, the Rothschilds, the Bankster family, who were thriving in Germany, created an organization called the Illuminati, secret societies into an occult religious group. They instructed Adam Wusthof, a cast-out Jesuit, a Jesuit who had problems with the church and was exiled. He found favor with the Rothschilds, and they created the Illuminati, an exiled Jesuit. Isn't that interesting? And even around these times, the journalist, educated Theodore Herschel was working with the Rothschilds and trying to get access to Palestine to create a homeland to fulfill biblical prophecy. And I've been going over the book, The State of Israel by Theodore Herschel, but you can see how the Rothschilds figure into this again and again, the Illuminati taking over the Freemasonic construction organizations and turning them into speculative organizations where the elite could operate in secret, and the new members had to swear allegiance under threat of death not to divulge the goings-on. So anyways, in England recently, they were celebrating their 300th anniversary, and there was a video of them bragging of all their exploits in the past 300 years. That's how I became aware of this. But apparently that video has been taken down. I believe that was on the VigilantAmerican.com. Was it Vigilant American?
At the end of the 1500s. And there is a difference between a guild and a Masonic lodge. A guild is an association which is stable within a city, where trade people have their association, like today would be a union. A Masonic lodge was a organization which was built, which operated in the building site, and the Masons would be working there, building whatever it is that they were building, a castle or a fortress or a cathedral, and they encompassed all sorts of people. And they were not only bricklayers, there were also architects, there were engineers, what would be today civil engineers, there were sculptors, there were painters, there were people who had to deal with water and windows and crystals, and the whole shebang, because they were all in this building. And then, of course, they would travel from one building site to the next. They were free, which at that time were the people were serfs. They were tied to the land and they couldn't move. If the Lord cut them out of their fiefdom, they would go through severe punishment. But the Freemasons, the Masons at that time, could move from building sites to building sites. And when that dried up, that was during the Middle Ages, this society said, now what do we do? And they started admitting gentry. But they admitted gentry in places like England, which was a very interesting place to be. I have been in northern Spain in a museum, el Museo de los Canteros, museums of the Masons. And there were Masons all over Europe, but there was not a Masonic lodge, and it could not evolve in Spain because of the religious oppression of the Inquisition and all that stuff. You must pardon my Spanish.
So he's saying in Spain there was the Inquisition and the repression of other religions other than Christianity.
Nervous, it becomes very strong. So these individuals decided to start meeting people, and that's where the difference between operative Masons and accepted Masons came to be. Operative Masons were the Masons who built things, and accepted Masons were the gentry that were accepted into the Masonic societies and participated into them. People.
When I was up in Maine a few years ago, there are these round signs about the size of a stop sign, but they were round and blue, and it said Freemasonry on the top, and then on the bottom it said Ancient and Accepted. Why are those signs all over the highways and roadways of Maine, and probably other cities and states all over the world? There's something religious, occult about this, which is absolutely anti-Christian.
Like, for example, Elias Ashmole, which was initiated in 1649, which was over half a century before the constitution of the first Grand Lodge. There are people who say that Oliver Cromwell was a Mason, which is not proven anywhere. The thing is that we all remember the French Revolution, and everybody forgets about the Cromwell Revolution, which was 150 years earlier.
Think about that. Britain had exiled the Jewish people from Britain. France had exiled the Jewish people from France. Spain had exiled the Jewish people from Spain. All over Europe, 1500s and 1600s, the Jews were banished, and they migrated off towards the Ukraine and Poland, and some of them Norway and Scotland, which brought other problems later on for Poland and the Ukraine area. The Eastern European Jewish people became something called Yiddish Jews, and were having a lot of troubles in Russia. But anyways, the way they gained access back into Britain and back into France is behind the scenes they orchestrated revolutions. And what they would do is they would get the people, the serfs, the poorer people, and said, rise up, we can take down your leadership and things will get better. Well, if you've ever seen what's gone on after these revolutions, it never gets better for the average citizen. So anyways, in Britain, Cromwell, that this gentleman just mentioned, orchestrated where they had an event where they had the king arrested and executed, and years later, like he just said, 100 years later, they orchestrated the French Revolution and had the king executed. So this is how the people into the Kabbalistic Zionist Jewish organizations, which are completely in bed with the Freemasons. You can look up Freemasons in King Solomon's Temple and watch my videos or other people's videos and make all the connections. But in the last 300 years, they've infiltrated cities, towns, countries, states, all over the world, taken over a lot of government, education, economic, medicine, everything, creating corporations, banking systems. So this gentleman is correct. They are responsible for a lot of what has happened in the past 300 years. And you can see on the bottom of this video, 300th anniversary of Freemasonry. So if you look that up,
a king that was oppressing the people, they chopped his head off, and they proclaimed a republic.
So you hear what he just said? They created the revolution by telling the people that the king was evil, so they chopped his head off.
Which only lasts 10 years, because when Cromwell died, they went back to the heirs, say heirs or heirs? Heirs of the king who had been deposed and beheaded.
So there you have it. Go watch this video. But remember, he's going to paint the picture in a positive light about Freemasonry. But if you know a little bit about history, there isn't a whole lot of positive light to be painted. Thank you for watching this video clip. Rick Miracle reporting. Anyways, another review of a website, Vigilant Citizen. I said it wrong on the earlier clip, the name of this website. But when I did make a clip on this website, I saw one of the other titles, so I went and looked at it. And apparently, you can see here the celebration in London of the Freemasons. Notice the eye and the compass, the checkerboard floor, the colors. But notice the eye and the whole thing. So they were celebrating 300 years of their accomplishment in the world. So this video of the royal ritual in London shows high-level Freemasons bragging about their heavy influence in all spheres of society in an extremely symbolic setting. So remember the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill. October 31st, 2017, the royal ritual took place at the Royal Albert Hall in London, where Freemasons celebrated 300th anniversary of their influence on society. The event was presided by Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England, Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, grandson of King George V and Queen Mary, and cousin to Queen Elizabeth II. So if anybody doesn't believe that the royal family are not into this Freemasonic occults, including the Zionist, Kabbalist, Illuminati, Rosicrucian, Bilderberger groups, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome, and 1,000 other societies that are secret and swear allegiance under threat of death, sort of like witchcraft organizations with the same symbols. Attended by thousands of Freemasons across the world, including 136 Grand Masters, the ceremony featured sketches bragging about the influence of Masonry on modern society, including its important role in the creation of the United States. And you can go look up and see President George Washington in his Freemasonic apron. It mentions several times the fact that their all-seeing eye is prominently featured on American banknotes, the dollar bill. Of course, all this happens on a checkerboard pattern floor under a gigantic compass and the all-seeing eye. Here's the video. So I did try to go watch this video, and obviously it has been taken down, video unavailable. So when people find out about some of this stuff and they're bragging about what they have done, they don't want the rest of us to be aware. After singing God Save the Queen, Benjamin Franklin and George Washington, so they had a couple people dressed up like those famous people, two prominent Freemasons came out to explain how America was founded on Messianic principles. And even ex-President John Quincy Adams wrote a book, Letters on Freemasonry. And way back then, the two political parties were the Masonic Party and the Anti-Masonic Party. And the Anti-Masonic Party would have been the Church, the Catholics, the Christians. So it was the Christians against the anti-Christians, or you can say it, the Freemasons against the anti-Freemasons. And again, it seems like it's part of the Hegelian dialectic. The controllers behind the scenes were playing two sides against each other. So here you can see what they said. Franklin says, "I hold to be self-evident, Brother Franklin, all men are created equal." So that would have been Washington. And Washington replies, "Indeed, Brother Washington, all Freemasons meet as equals as we have the opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of messianic morality. To create a nation in the very essence of messianic morality. So the messianic secret societies would have been into the religion of the whore of Babylon, the satanic religion. So they would have brought us a satanic morality, which is why they were opposed by the Christians with the Christian morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think? You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on all banknotes next. They go on to brag about the Masonic symbolism in Washington, D.C. The plans for our new capital city already have a very messianic feel to them. Yeah? So Washington, D.C.'s street plan is in the shape of an owl. That would be Moloch. And in the Bible, in Jeremiah, the worship of Moloch and Baal by the Jewish people caused God to send King Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon down into Jerusalem to kill the people, take the others into captivity, and destroy King Solomon's temple. Then they talk about a great number of messianic presidents and about how Freemasonry will be embedded in American culture and how the Statue of Liberty is a giant messianic gift from France, Freemasons. They also add, don't forget about the musicians, because there are a lot of musicians who are Freemasons. Well, we see that with the movie stars covering up one eye, and the lyrics coming out of Miley Cyrus and Bieber, and so many more, the satanic symbols on a lot of rock and roll albums, even satanic words when you play some of those albums backwards. A lot of people are aware of these things. If you're not, you can look into it, you can search it, and you'll find your evidence. It says in this VigilantCitizen.com article, as seen in countless articles on this site, the music business is deeply embedded in occult principles. Although many people in this industry are part of a darker occult orders. The ceremony ends with the initiation of a messianic candidate by Prince Edward. So I don't want to read it all. There's obviously some very important information here. And you got some notes down here by some people. We cannot call any of this a conspiracy theory anymore, when it is all happening in front of us. The slaves of Satan are old men who are ruling this globe. We are in this world but not part of it. Thanks to Jesus Christ, I know exactly what that means. Chris says, exactly. I say let them have their earthly wealth and continue to be Satan's pawns. Personally, I'll happily remain middle class and wait for my Lord Jesus Christ to come back and start his reign on this earth as the one true king. These men might be powerful at this moment, but I have no fear or doubt that they will all eventually reap what they have sown. God bless you all. Anna says, Amen. Team Jesus says, Amen. Be strong, do not fear, your God will come. Isaiah 35:4. Jesus come quickly. So you can see a lot of the people making comments here are pro-Christian and are aware of this satanic messianic influence on our world right now, and it does seem to be increasing. There's a lot of talk of World War III, global world order, 5G microwave transmission system, beast computers, smart meters, smartphones, smart cars, facial recognition, microchipping people and children, and dumping chemicals in the sky, geoengineering, killing the bees, the bugs, the birds, even the deer. So thank you for watching this website review. Please go to thevigilancecitizen.com and check out this stuff for yourself. So I've been talking a lot about prophecies, Christian prophecies, because I'm a Christian. But apparently in Islam, they have a prophet about the end times. The Sea of Galilee is supposed to dry up. Listen to this video and See what you think.
When we study the event critically, we come to the conclusion this could not have been an actual event. It had to be a vision.
The prophet listened, and then he said to the people, "Sit down, I have something to say to you." Tamim Dari came to me and told me something about the Antichrist, which confirms what I have been saying to you. And now we get the story from the blessed lips of the Messenger of Allah. What is the story? Tamim ad-Dari and some 30 or 40 of his companions went on board a ship. And then the storms came and blew the ship for a whole month before they arrived at an island. And when they got on shore, they got off the ship and they went on shore, they were confronted by a very hairy creature. Plenty hair, so much hair, you could hardly tell which side is head and which side is tail. And then this creature spoke and said, "I am Jassasa. Jassasa. Spy. Surah Al-Hujurat, وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا, do not spy." So this is an island with a lot of people who excel in spying. And then Jassasa pointed to a monastery. There's someone waiting to see you there.
And said, "There's someone waiting to see you," pointing to a monastery which is lying in ruins. So number one, an island, which is about 1 month's distance from the Arab world. Number two, an island with expertise in spying, in espionage. Number three, an island in which religion will eventually crumble, collapse, lying in ruins.
He's talking about the destruction of Christianity. Prior to Cromwell and the assassination of their king, Britain was a Christian nation. And of course, involving Cromwell, the Kabbalist, Zionist Jewish people, and Freemasons, they managed to create America as a future warring nation for these people to bring about the global world order. But anyways, he's identifying the Islamic prophecy of which island it is that's supposed to be the producer of the Antichrist. And he's mentioning Britain.
And most of the people become atheists.
So they rushed to the monastery. And there they found this young man, powerfully built, with curly hair. But there's no description about his eyes. His hands were chained to his neck. His feet were chained. And this man began to question Tamim ad-Dari and his companions. A number of very interesting questions.
The man said to us, "Tell me about the palm trees of Baysan." Baysan is a city in Jordan. And he wanted to know whether there were palm trees planted in there or not. We said, "What do you exactly want to know about Baysan in Jordan?" He said, "I asked you, are there more palm trees and have they been filled with dates or not yet?" They said, yes, it is full of palm trees and full of dates, more than many other places in what we know. He said, soon its palm trees and dates will become scarce, will no longer give fruits.
So he's prophesizing the end times, that the palm trees and dates will disappear. And as we all know, there's been a lot of destruction in the Middle East. And apparently, the palm trees and the dates are pretty much disappeared, according to this guy.
Today, really, in Jordan, dates are scarce now. It used to be in history, abundance. He said, now explain to me about Buhayra Tabariya. They said, what do you want to know about it?
He asked, is there any water left in the Sea of Galilee?
He said, does it have water in it? They said, yes, there's lots of water. He said, soon its water is going to go away. It's not going to exist anymore. And truly today, the water has gone drier than before.
You're not going to believe if you continue watching this video, but apparently Israel has built an aqueduct system, and they're draining the Sea of Galilee according to this prophecy. But the story in this video is even worse than that. They have waterfalls, and people are watering their lawns and waterfalls and pools in the Jewish areas of Israel, previously called Palestine. And the Palestinian people's faucets have been off for months on the other side of the fence. It's in this video. It certainly identifies the people in Israel today as some selfish people who don't realize what they're doing, because eventually, with all that water they're sucking out of the Sea of Galilee, they won't even be able to water their crops that are growing everywhere through the aqueduct system.
And then he said, I am the Dajjal. I am the Antichrist.
So the being that these sailors from the Arab world met 30 days out at sea, they met this being called Dajjal, the Antichrist. And when these things happen, the dates and the trees and the water and everything, he says some other things are gone, this being is supposed to arrive. It's eerily parallel to the Christian prophecies.
I will enter every town and every city, but I will not be allowed to enter into Mecca and Medina because the angels will bow. And so now we know, up to this moment in time, the Antichrist is not as yet released, but he is on an island which is about 1 month's journey away from the Arab world by sea. An island which has excellence in spying. And so now we know that when the message came from the messenger of Allah that Dajjal has been released, we know that it is in this island that he's going to be released.
So apparently they're saying the Antichrist can come from the island of Britain. And obviously Britain, the kingdom where the sun never sets, and in control of the Illuminati, the Zionists, the Satanists, after they killed the king with Cromwell. This Dajjal being is supposed to be released. So I'm going to show you another clip on who this Dajjal is. Just an interesting perspective versus a Christian perspective versus the Islamic people's perspective. And in different ways, these prophesized pieces of information are eerily similar. But check out this religion on this character, Dajjal. Welcome to another Yahoo image search. And the word is D-A-J-J-A-L, Dajjal. And this is the Antichrist being that's supposed to come at the end times. Looks like the Grim Reaper and all the other symbols for the god of the underworld. Now I have to ask people, between the Islamic religion, the Christian religion, the Buddhist religion, the Hindu religion, the Zoroaster religion, and a lot of the indigenous native tribes, peoples all over the world who have similar stories, what are we to believe? Here's the all-seeing eye in the pyramid. He will say to the people, I am your Lord. He is one-eyed, but your Lord is not one-eyed. So to dismiss the religion of Islam is a huge mistake. Just like the religion of Christianity. I think the religion of Islam could be 25 to 1/3 of the world's people. Christianity could be 25% to 1/3 of the world's people. And they have prophets, and they have these stories. It looks eerily similar to Satanism. They have a different language, different prophets, different stories, different situations on how the event will happen. But apparently, it's when people turn away from God, Jesus, even the information the prophets gave the Islamic peoples. And they make cartoons. So apparently this Dajjal is coming, the false Messiah. In Christianity we call it an Antichrist. This is the name which Muslims know, the Antichrist, since he would claim to be the Messiah promised by God to the children of Israel. So a deceiver is coming. And the Messianic being, Messiah, Messianic being, the core agenda of the Masons is to build a temple for Lucifer before the coming of the Messiah. This Messiah will be the one-eyed Antichrist. So if you look up Freemasonry and King Solomon's Temple, you'll see the models. If you look into Freemasonry, you'll know it's been around for 300 years under the control of the Illuminati, the banksters, the Zionists. Not all Jewish people are Zionists. A lot of Jewish people are God-fearing people who are awake and have tried to warn us, like Benjamin Friedman and Rabbi Marvin Antelman, and many more. You can look up Zionism on Yahoo image site and see many Jewish people with posters and banners saying that Zionism is the enemy of mankind. And recently we're all aware that President Donald Trump recognized Jerusalem as the capital of the world, which is going to accelerate the rebuilding of King Solomon's Temple, which needs to be built before the coming of the Lucifer Messiah, as you see here. I don't make these pictures up. There's a link, slideshare.net, Fana of the Dajjal. They're setting the stage for this by creating a one world order, global world order. Remember the mark on the dollar bill. That means create a one world government that will enslave all citizens. So believe it or not, what we are seeing is true. What we are hearing is true. The sexual revolution with pansexualism, transgenderism, and so much more, Rainbow Coalition, is all part of the Antichrist and the deception of somebody who is going to claim to be the Antichrist, even in the Islamic people's religion. And you can go back to the website I was just looking at and watch some of the other videos, and I believe you will be convinced that the Islamic people have a similar prophecy, and it all seems to be coming true. Unbelievable, actually, how I ever found out about this stuff and got to this point in my life is bizarre even to me. A TV program you can watch called Lucifer. All the symbols are everywhere. Emmys, Grammys, singing events like Eurovision, American Idol, Super Bowl halftime show, tunnel openings, the goddess of destruction, Shiva, Kali put up on the Empire State Building. These people are bringing us the false flags, dividing the people. So what do you think? So much evidence out there. This is an interesting website. So much information here. I need to look at it and make a review. The United Nations is owned by the Zionist, Freemason, Illuminati, Jews, New World Order occult. So you can read that on this website, 4winds10.com. I don't make this stuff up. I just do research and report. I did find this book in 1884 I've been reading. The Spirit of Prophecy, 1884. The Great Controversy Between Christ and Satan. Multiple Witness of Scripture. The information is everywhere on Historist.com. So this is the website we were looking at before. And you can see some of the videos down here. The Island of Dajjal. The Sea of Galilee. Record low water. Part of the prophecy. And if you watch that video I was watching, it's almost enough to bring you to tears. This video right here. Britain, the island of the Antichrist Dajjal. The Palestinians don't have any water coming out of their faucets. I'll see if I can get it for you.
From the Sea of Galilee to the rest of Israel.
For centuries, the Sea of Galilee has inspired believers the world over. The waters, the Bible tells us, Jesus walked on, the shores where he performed his miracles. A place of beauty, religion and legend. But today, on the brink of disaster.
Water should be above our heads, in fact. The tragedy is that we don't need to be Jesus Christ anymore to walk here on the Sea of Galilee.
Environmentalist Guidon Bromberg and I could walk the floor of the lake because its waters have retreated hundreds of yards.
Making the desert bloom is unsustainable, and the demise of the Sea of Galilee must send that message to Israeli politicians.
This bay should be full of water right up to those rocks. The Sea of Galilee is so low it must be pumped uphill into the Jordan now, the river it should feed. Otherwise its baptism sites would dry up. But the Jordan doesn't flow much further from here. Israeli authorities deny mismanagement. Instead, they blame the weather.
Such a drought of 5 successive years, that's something we never met. And that's also something that statistically is really rare.
On the waters, boatmen who fish for tourists are deeply alarmed.
We used to use the first pier, and then the water level went down, so we brought another one, and now another one.
Do you think it's going to get better?
We pray it will be better, and it will be. We trust God.
It'll need more than divine intervention. Scientists say if the Sea of Galilee sinks another metre or two, it could reach a point of no return, and this could be lost forever.
The Sea of Galilee is dropping so fast that islands of earth are appearing. It could run out of water altogether in less than a year, and this is 1/3 of Israel's water supply. The Jordan.
Think about it. The millions of people that they have moved to Israel, established in 1948 after World War II, creating anti-Semitism all over the world to encourage, I guess you could call it, push the people to leave France, America, Argentina, Germany, the world. And now they're sucking the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus is said to have walked on the water, dry. And it's part of the prophecy of Dajjal.
River is drying up, barely a muddy stream in places. The farms along its banks dying without water.
As the dry months of summer sweep through the Middle East, Israel is faced with its worst water crisis ever. The water level in Israel's three main water sources, the Sea of Galilee, the coastal aquifer, and the mountain aquifer, have now receded to the lowest levels in recorded history.
See the condition.
Water comes through our pipes twice a year.
More than 300,000 Palestinians across the West Bank are not connected to a water network, according to Palestinian human rights groups. Since the 1967 occupation, all water resources are exclusively in Israeli hands.
We receive maybe 2,000 cubic meters per day. It means that we need 7,000 to give the people to reach 70 to 80 liter per capita.
Once you leave the West Bank and cross into Israel, the picture could hardly be more different. There's no shortage of water here. Israelis quite literally splash it around.
And you'll hardly find a more striking example than this of how Israel squanders water. An ornamental fountain in a park, while Palestinians in the West Bank barely have enough water to drink and to wash.
Amnesty says the settlers use 5 times as much water as the Palestinians in the West.
Can you see who is the good guy here and who is the one being treated poorly? And who are the evil forces? The Palestinians don't deserve this. They were there before the state of Israel was created. And they're treated like dirt.
West Bank. Back in the West Bank, the settlement of Har Sinai is expanding across the fence from Rad.
Look at these houses. These houses they're building for the continuing stream of Jewish people from all over the world, fulfilling prophecy, something called the return after 2,000 years of dispersion.
The Sultan's fields. There's no shortage of water here.
Today, Palestinians have access to roughly 90 liters of water per day per capita, while Israelis have access to 284. Palestinians say this disbalance results from the Israeli Water Corporation often cutting off their water supply and Israel denying them permits to dig wells. They say that Mekorot maintains a strict quota on their water usage while pumping unlimited amounts both for Israelis and for Jewish settlers in the West Bank.
Think about this. If they pull off World War III, and a lot of people are saying America will lose, and that'll be planned, and we'll wind up in a situation like the Hunger Games movie, with an Antichrist character ruling the world. Look at all these videos you can watch on this website. All you have to do is look up this Island of Dajjal, D-A-J-J-A-L, and it's at the video search on the top of the screen, yahoo.com. The Island of Dajjal. You can see my keywords I put up there. All this prophesized reality apparently coming true. Thank you for watching this clip. Rick Miracle reporting. crazy information. Please go put in those keywords and watch some of these videos and get educated before the information is gone. I've been watching this video for a while, haven't finished it. Let me play some of it for you. Remember what I'm saying, whether it's Dajjal, that demon, or Lucifer, Satan, Baal, Moloch, this mystery religion is real. It is anti-family values, anti-Christian, anti-Islamic, anti-Palestine, anti-peoples all over the world. You can go watch this video and use your discerning mind.
Pope Francis is a Jesuit, but remember, it's the mystery religion and they disguise themselves as the Orthodoxy, so it doesn't really matter if it's Jewish or Muslim or Christian, or they're a Jesuit, or they're whatever, an atheist. If they are really part of the mystery tradition at its core, they will be hiding it from the masses, but revealing it in secrets and allegories and symbolism. So we've had plenty of that coming from the Vatican in line with everything that we are reading. And Pope Francis is the rock star pope that everyone loves and is progressive, right? He's not succumbing to the static inertia of the Orthodox religion. He's for evolving along with science, just like the Dalai Lama. So just something to think about with this whole Jesuit thing, because Blavatsky and actually people like Albert Pike shit on the Jesuits a lot, and I know that they're a hot topic in the conspiracy world as being the rulers of all of this evil, but it's kind of strange that they don't like him either, so I don't know what's up with that. But also, Blavatsky really gripes about Orthodox Judaism, so the Jews and the Jesuits are being demonized by Blavatsky, but of course in an exoteric sense, and that's why it's so important to discern what is actually being said with the symbolism and understand the esoteric parts of the literature in order to make a more informed opinion on all these matters. Or
the bottom line, like in World War II, the bottom line, even in World War I and before, a lot of Jewish people are not into the Kabbalah, mysticism, witchcraft, reformed, worshiping Satan, Lucifer, etc., Baal, Moloch. And I believe a lot of the Jews that were killed during World War II were the Orthodox anti-Zionist. So they play the Hegelian dialectic. They are destroying the God-fearing people, whether you're Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Islamic. And then the peoples of those nations that join the global world order, New Age, satanic organizations and cults are left as the majority.
At least in my viewpoint. But in the above statement of Eliphas Levi, he's basically saying that the devil with the claws and the horns and how people most traditionally paint him as, he's saying that that form is better suited for the Orthodox version of Yahweh, or the demiurge version of Zeus. So if you see an evil satanic figure in Hollywood, and Hollywood is all about this esoteric religion, I wonder what's supposed to be represented by these evil devils. Because according to this, it would be the Orthodox religion. And I think it's very interesting how a lot of people in the Orthodox religion are always looking at these movies and saying that they worship Satan and all this stuff. But according to this is actually an allegory for the Orthodox Christians, or the Orthodox Jews, or the Orthodox Muslims. They are saying that they are the evil, so they're turning this imagery or this figure or this symbol of the devil with horns basically around on the Christians, according to Eliphas Levi here. And what I think is also interesting in movies like Rosemary's Baby, it's sweet little Rosemary, right? She's very virgin and innocent, and she is essentially raped by her husband in this weird fucked up dream, who sold his soul for materialism and impregnated her with Satan's baby, right? So she's like birthing Yaldabaoth, the demon spawn, and the Archons. So all of these weird satanic witch people that are surrounding her in this rape scene, they would be seen as the Archons in Gnosticism. These would be seen as the figureheads of the Orthodox religion. So I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say here. And this was directed by Roman Polanski, and he was basically a part of the Tate murders with his wife being murdered. Now some people have alleged that that was fabricated and a hoax, and that stirred up this satanic panic with Charles Manson. And there is a documentary by Tyranny News Network that goes over this, and I talked about it in my Pizzagate series, so if you'd like to elaborate on that, go ahead, but I think it's very interesting. What would be the point of fabricating a satanic panic if that was indeed what happened? And of course, if we apply what we know about esoteric philosophy as we read here, then Rosemary is like the Virgin Mary, which is essentially the virgin state of the pure spirit of Lucifer, right? We read all about that in the last video. So the occultists really like turning around Orthodox symbols and using them to reflect what they believe their state of consciousness is and use it against them. But since the doctrine is hidden and most people don't know about these things, you would never guess that. So that's my question, is what's really going on here with all of this satanic stuff? It seems kind of weird to me that every time we read the occult allegories for it, it's meant to demonize the Orthodox religion.
Of course it's meant to demonize good people, family values, people who want a normal type of society where you don't have to worry about your children playing in the front yard or being taught sex in the first grade, like the law they just passed in California and apparently in another state recently. So this stuff is continuing to accelerate into some kind of abyss of insanity, or like George Bush Sr. said, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order. I believe that was 1991. And what have we seen since 1991? Chaos and anarchy and bizarreness and terror and 911 and death and all kinds of crazy news, sustainability, global warming. Unbelievable.
And I wonder if that's what's going on with all of this stuff. So just something to think about. I know a bit of a digression, so let's get back on track here. But Blavatsky basically states that the devil is mankind. There is no devil that is anthropomorphic outside of us running things or basically trying to manipulate humanity to build a transhumanist body to create the New World Order. She's saying that is ridiculous. The only devil is us in our dualistic sense, but if we unify the opposites and become more spiritual and more androgynous and then move up to an avatar deified state, then I guess that would solve that problem with this so-called devil.
Consider what he just said. Bringing beings from another dimension into this dimension, like those archways of Baal, B-A-A-L, that apparently UNESCO, the United Nations Education and Science Department from the United Nations, those archways they put in London and New York and 1,000 other cities all over the world. The symbolism I keep talking about. It seems to me there is a huge magic ritual taking place, and the people are being mind controlled and social conditioned and deceived, that a lot of people are falling for all of this. Go watch this video, see what you think. Thank you for watching my little short clip. Rick Miracle reporting.
The Avodas Hadam means that the part of slaughtering the animal has to be done properly, the collecting of the blood has to be done properly, the carrying of the blood to the altar has to be done properly, and the sprinkling of the blood in the altar has to be done properly. And if any mistake was made during those procedures, the whole offering was canceled completely. Now, why? I'll do a 60-second version of that. We can eat meat of an animal that's slaughtered properly. If it's kosher, we make a bracha, you didn't steal the food, and it won't affect our neshama. However, listen carefully, we cannot process the blood. Can't process blood. Only an altar could do that. And that's why if you look at Leviticus 17:11, it says, on the altar, and Jesus didn't die on any altar. I just want to explain what's going on. We can't process blood. There's no way.
Notice he was speaking derogatory of Jesus. He died on the cross so that people's sins could be forgiven. But this rabbi, Tovia Singer, says he didn't shed his blood on an altar.
that we can drink blood, that we can go unaffected by that event. That's why this is one of the commandments given to the children of Noah. See Genesis chapter 9, where they're warned when the children of Noah are told that they can eat meat, but make sure that there's no blood in the flesh. That you can't do. Your body cannot, your soul cannot process blood. It can't, and will damage you. You have to have a context. The context is, if you're bringing a sacrifice, it is the blood which affects the atonement. It doesn't mean that without the shedding of blood there's no atonement. That's Hebrews. There's nothing like that in the Jewish scriptures. Now, of course, Hebrews 9:22 misquotes Leviticus 17:11, of course. And people who read Leviticus 17, who are, look, I'm going to say it, I hope I don't offend. I don't want to offend. But Christians don't read Leviticus 17:11 in context. And if you're not sure, you could believe me that Christians are running to their Bibles now to look it up. And it's a shame. Because if a verse is verse 11 in Leviticus 17, what happened to the verse 10? What is it talking about there? The context has nothing to do with atonement. The context of Leviticus chapter 17 verse 11 is eating blood, namely its prohibition. Go back to Leviticus chapter 17 verse 10, where we're introduced to the prohibition that a person is not allowed to eat blood. The only thing you can do with blood is you can put it on the altar to make an atonement when that's the prescribed offering. So the text is not saying that without the shedding of blood there's no atonement. Now, yes, of course, if you take a text in the Talmud and you rip it out of context, well, of course you would think that. That means if you strip the context away, you're in huge trouble. I covered this extensively in volume 1 of Let's Get Biblical. The context is that when the prescription for sin is an offering, and there are many such sacrifices, is a korban oila, which is a voluntary sacrifice offering for sin. So in that context, when you bring the korban chatos, the sin offering, the korban osham, the guilt offering, difference, the guilt offering is brought by someone who recognized they sinned, they were not caught sinning, and they voluntarily come forward and say, I did a mistake, so that person's able to bring an offering. A thief who's caught, there's no offering, he just pays double. In the context of the Yom Kippur sacrifice, Leviticus 16, if other elements, let's say the smicha, I'm not going to go into all the Jewish offerings, other parts of the offering are not performed properly, the offering still is efficacious. However, when it comes to avodas hadam, which all leads up to the sprinkling of blood on the altar, if that is not done properly, with the proper kavanah, with the proper intent, then the sacrifice, then there's no atonement.
So go watch this guy's videos and educate yourself. And think about why they are rebuilding King Solomon's temple, including the acknowledgement by President Donald Trump that the U.S. recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, which gives them the control of the city. And there will be, in my opinion, by watching and studying what I've been studying, they will destroy the Muslims' Dome of the Rock, which sits on that Temple Mount site, so that they can continue to go back to an ancient religion where they sacrifice animals, as this man is explaining, and denying that Jesus gave his life so that our sins could be forgiven, as this man just said. I just ask most people who have any kind of common sense or intelligence, which do you choose? The satanic cultures or the teachings of Jesus where we are to love one another? Why are they demonizing and trying to destroy Christianity? Why are they trying to rebuild King Solomon's temple? To go back to sacrificing animals. Fair questions? I think they're kind of serious, important questions. Your soul, my soul, our reality depends on people waking up. Thank you for watching this video clip review. Rick Mariko reporting. So I was watching this video, Welcome to another short clip of a video review by Rick Miracle. The People of the Flame, David Adams. So we see that Iran is being demonized these days. And out of Persia, now called Iran, is an ancient religion called Zoroastrianism. Listen to this.
Legend has it that it was here King Solomon struck the ground with his staff. Instantly steaming water poured from the earth, and the Queen of Sheba was able to have the hot bath.
So King Solomon strikes his rod, a staff, on the ground and gets instant steaming water for Queen of Sheba. I guess I don't know too much about the Bible. Who knows about this story?
But there's another legend. Also beside this thermal lake, I find the ruins of a Zoroastrian temple. This is one of the places where the great mystic, Zoroaster, is supposed to have been born.
So what's a mystic? Wouldn't that be somebody into the occult? A prophet? A seer? A channeler? A psychic? A witch? So where does information come from in our reality? I think that's a serious and important question.
In this pit, some of the most sacred fires of Zoroastrianism once burned. Eternal flames tended by priests called magies. Magic flames. For that's the source of the word magic. Flames never to be extinguished.
And wasn't it the three magi, the three kings, who saw the star and went to Bethlehem where Jesus was born? Interesting, if you think about it.
And it's here at the so-called throne of a Jewish king that the myths of four religions merge. It was from here, 2,000 years ago, that three magi set off in search of a newborn child, guided by a star. The star took them to Bethlehem. There they found a Christian son of God and a great prophet of Islam, Jesus.
A great prophet of Islam, Jesus. Did you hear that? People want to deny Jesus today because they've been taught that by the propaganda, social conditioning, deception machine. But if Islam is actually maybe a 25% or a third of the world, and Christianity is 25% or a third of the world, let's just say it's 50 or 60% of the entire world. 3+ billion people with all the documented history. Who is going to continue to deny that this is probably not true?
But further up the road, I go back another 1,000 years. This is the biblical land of Nod, where Cain slew Abel.
So the biblical stories are true, whether it's Christianity or Islam. And the stories are also in the Old Testament, the Bible for the Jewish people. So don't believe it when they tell you this stuff's not true. It is true.
The further I travel, the further back in time I seem to go. To the beginning of time itself, in fact. For somewhere around here is supposed to be the place where time began. The Garden of Eden. But the facts don't seem to match my expectations. A glimpse of paradise, perhaps? A garden where Adam and Eve once frolicked in a perfect world? Not this barren, windswept wilderness. I feel disappointed, and then I drive round a corner and see this.
Oh wow, look at this village.
It's a village carved from living rock, the home of the Iranian troglodytes. Eons ago, these bizarre conical shapes were formed by lava spewed from an erupting volcano.
We are at Kandahar.
And out of these rocks, they carved their homes, which is why it's called Kandavan. The word means the place that is dug.
This is something out of Spielberg.
What an unlikely looking paradise. The last place you'd expect to find a Garden of Eden. It's time I took some photographs. It's pretty quiet in Kandahar. It's said that the river that feeds the Garden of Eden is supposed to flow through here. But I see no river, and I definitely see no garden. As I walk, I'm entranced by the fairy tale feeling of this place. I'm told people came to Kandahar because there aren't any snakes here. Now the Garden of Eden legend is really wearing thin, but I'm curious about what lies behind those walls.
I'm David. David, how much are you? Thank you, yes.
The Iranians are incredibly hospitable, and I'm constantly being invited into their private homes.
This is your family.
And that's how I come to meet Mr. Hashim.
Hashim. You were much younger. And this is Mecca?
Mecca, Baba. Baba. Ben de raftim. Babam rafti. Baba.
Your father?
He's gone away. Okay.
Thank you, Hashim. That was great. I got this.
Hey, Lasti. Şapiya Şam. Hey, Hunima. Hunima.
I don't understand.
Şam.
Oh, dinner.
Asho.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay.
I think Mr. Hashim is inviting me to dinner. So that evening, I come back with my guide Afshin. And Mr. Hashim's laid on quite a feast.
So how is this named?
He's invited some shepherds to meet me, Musa and Rahim. So it isn't long before the conversation gets around to sheep.
So have you got any sheep in Australia?
We've got more sheep than any other place on earth.
از همه جای دنیا بیشتر ما گوسفند داریم.
Millions and millions and millions.
میتونه برام یه دونه آواز بخونه. Can you sing for us here?
Can I sing?
No.
Later, I'll sing.
You know, it is concerning that President Donald Trump, about a week ago, ordered an aircraft carrier and a fleet of ships off of the coast of Iran. Look at these people. Should we hate these people? He sent a fleet of bombers to the countries around Iran. Looks like they're trying to destroy Iran. I've met some Iranian people. I think Iran hasn't been in any serious wars, except for the ones that were created with Iraq, in 100 years. But the West, Britain, France, and America, regrettably, I'm American, we've been involved in 100 wars in 100 years, situations, toppling governments. I'll bet it's close to 100. What do you think?
I think some Australian songs.
And then, with no ladies present, The conversation takes a rather masculine turn. Does he have a girlfriend?
Namzat Berin. Yeah, he does.
Would he like to have a girlfriend?
Ye dus Berin Namzat Beşir You ask a lot of questions about his girlfriend. So how about you? Do you have anyone, you know,
It's difficult for me because I travel so much. So, you know, I travel maybe 9 months of the year. So it's no woman would tolerate that. He doesn't look convinced. And then the big surprise. Not only are they shepherds, they're musicians. Musa plays a 6-stringed instrument called a saz, while Rahim plays the sorna, a shepherd's flute.
I wish people would look into the culture of Iran. I don't think it's a people that should be demonized and destroyed, as well as the culture of the Ukrainians, the Germans, Mexicans, Native Americans, Brazilians, Argentinians, Africans, people all over the world. What kind of evil force on this planet creates all this suffering and death and theft? Somewhere along the way, I'm thinking as I'm speaking here, but somewhere along the way, we the people need to wake up. Maybe it's an individual thing. Maybe certain people will wake up and find themselves in a better world when they leave this planet. And maybe some people will refuse to wake up and find themselves in a situation where they wish they did wake up. So I do my research, I watch the videos, I look at the websites, I read books and press releases, pay attention to the nightly news, the crazy weather, the dumping of chemicals in the sky, the installation of microwave systems, 5G, wireless, monitoring computers, facial recognition, smart meters, smartphones, and I pay attention to biblical prophecy, that all of this stuff was prophesied to come. Again, what's it going to take to wake people up? So thank you for watching this short clip of this video. Please go watch it. Timeline, World History Documentaries, Iran, People of the Flame with David Adams, Middle East History Documentary, Timeline. And as you can see, I look at lots of stuff before I make up my mind and consider what I believe to be the situation in our reality. Should we be destroying these people in Iran? Will a war start tomorrow? Rick Miracle reporting. Welcome to another YouTube video review. The United Nations and the Occult Agenda, Total Onslaught. Walter Veet. Listen to him talk about Arthur Balfour. Do you know who Arthur Balfour is? Do you know about the Balfour Agreement that was created in World War I when Britain was losing the war and Germany was winning World War I? The Jews went to the leaders of Britain and said, hey, we can turn this around. Don't surrender. We can get you the money and the support of Jewish people all over the world. We can bring the United States into the war if you'll agree to assist us to get the Palestinians land to create the state of Israel. Listen to this. And Mr. Balfour, was involved in the creation of the United Nations. You think these people were bought and paid for?
This founding of the United Nations. Now, let's have a look at this Charter of the United Nations. This is a very interesting piece of history. Well, Arthur Balfour, do you remember that name? We've used it before. Who was a member of Hort's Apostles? You remember Hort? This is the professor that helped to produce the Greek text that changed the emphasis of the Bible and removed many of the aspects of Jesus Christ's power and sovereignty from the Word of God.
So they were involved in changing the Bible so that it would have weaker, non-supporting text. Did you know that?
And the apostles were the secret society that functioned, and at that time, and Hort was a member, as well as Arthur Balfour. Hort called this group a Senior Apostles Club, as well as president of the Psychic Research Society, Society for Psychic Research.
Psychic Research Society, the occult, Kabbalah, mysticism, spirit communication. And they mentioned that. In the bottom of this frame it says, departed spirits can communicate. So these are the people who created the United Nations. So that's right in league with the New Age philosophies and the anti-Christian propaganda, social conditioning.
Soon became Prime Minister of England, Arthur Balfour, and instrumental in the First League of Nations. So this Prime Minister was also, of course, active in the writing of the original Charter of the League of Nations, much of which formed the basis for the United Nations. He not only headed the Society for Psychic Research, holding seances at his home, but he initiated a group called the Synthetic Society, whose goal was to create a one-world religion.
Oh my, way back there, World War I, World War II, League of Nations, United Nations. They were intent on creating a one-world religion, a one-world government, a one-world currency.
It's a very interesting point of history. And he invited a certain Frederick Mayers of the Society of Psychic Research to join, and together they created the preamble of all religions, and it includes the dogma, departed spirits can communicate. Obviously.
Think about that. Departed spirits can communicate. Psychic research. So they were communicating with these beings behind the veil, another dimension, probably Hades, the underworld, certainly not heaven and God's world and Jesus' world, or they wouldn't be trying to destroy Christianity. These people created the United Nations and have been in control before and after, and it explains all the things going on now. With one huge problem, the advanced technologies they have now give them an almost unlimited power. If you think about AI, artificial intelligence, computers and facial recognition and smart meters dumping chemicals in the sky, one of the huge methods for controlling people is to withhold water and food from them, and then people will do whatever you want. So when people resist this global world order, you can bet that the food and water and more, fuel for your car, gas, propane, electricity, and even the government in the end of 2018 issued a warning that the electric grid could go down and people should be prepared and have supplies on hand. So you think they're telling us?
If you belong to such a society, then that is part of the situation. So built in somewhere over there was the wish to bring all religions together. Now let's have a look at some of the historic figures of the United Nations. Alger Hiss, he became the acting Secretary General of the establishment of the United Nations. The April 16, 1945 issue of Time magazine called him one of the State Department's brighter young men. It was Hiss and Joseph E. Johnson, who later became secretary of the Bilderbergers. So here we have all the secret societies again, who wrote.
So they want a merger of all religions, but let's not forget, their religions of the secret society is clearly Luciferian, satanic, Moloch, like in the Bohemian Grove, demon Baal, like the 1,000 arches of Baal they installed all over the world, coming out of the United Nations. Very interesting. So if they're going to merge all religions, and their religion is Satanism, how's that going to work out?
Much of the United Nations Charter. So very high Freemasons, Bilderbergers, were responsible for this charter. Now we know what they believe. We've already had a lecture on that, and I would refer people back to that lecture. Patterning it after the Constitution of Russia and the Communist Manifesto.
So they patented the United Nations Charter after the Constitution of Russia, Communist Russia, and the Communist Manifesto. And I ordered that book today, the Communist Manifesto. So I'll be looking at that and just seeing how it aligns with all this other stuff I've been learning. But these are the people bringing us the global world order, the satanic cults, secret societies. I wonder how many people are completely, clearly aware of this.
This is very interesting. So the Constitution of the USSR is almost identical to the Constitution of the United Nations, for those who did not know that. And there are all the references. Everything that I say is referenced. I'm just reading. So please, nobody get angry with me. Get angry if you want to with whoever set this thing up.
So people want to deny this is going on and get angry. And basically, basic psychology is this. You believe, I believe what we believe. When somebody introduces information that conflicts with what we believe, Psychology 101 teaches that you resist it to the point of even getting angry and frustrated and depressed. Changing what you believe in your mind is a very difficult thing. Once you're programmed, you're programmed. And think about that. 50% of the population are programmed to be Democrats. 50% of the population are programmed to be Republicans in the United States. They believe what they believe. And to try to get them to open their minds and realize that not all Democrats are evil, not all Republicans are evil, is a very difficult thing to do. Once your mind is programmed, it's made up. And that's called the Hegelian dialectic. They use the differences and they use the media, the newspapers, the TV, the radio, social conditioning to keep the divide about 50-50. So it's not lopsided that one side will dominate the other. They need to keep the conflict going, and they are experts at how the mind works and mind control and social conditioning and deception and propaganda. It's important that people realize how the mind works to see how we got into this problem. And the powers that be have been studying this for a long time, mind control and spiritual communication with beings from some invisible reality. Hades, hell, behind the veil, another dimension. You decide.
Had nothing to do with it. Winston Churchill, the creation of an authoritative world order is the ultimate aim towards which we must strive, and the United Nations formed part of that. Charles de Gaulle, who was also instrumental, nations must unite in a world government or perish. So the
Winston Churchill said he was happiest when he was at war. He took it upon himself to start World War I. He was in charge of the Navy and had sent a fleet of ships off the coast of Germany to kind of, give the war a little push to get started. And he's a promoter of a world order is the ultimate aim towards which we must strive. So these characters who created the United Nations were all Satanists, communists, Zionist, secret society, Illuminati, Masonic, etc., etc., etc. Kabbalistic, mystic, witchcraft type of religion, cults.
Big figures involved had this philosophy. Then there was a man, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Trygve Lie. The first official UN Secretary General was a high-ranking member of Norway's Social Democratic Party, which was, by the way, an offshoot of the Third Communist International, and then...
A lot of people, again, have their minds programmed. You mention socialism to them, and they jump up and dance around with glee. They say socialism will all take care of each other. Well, I beg to differ. It's the same thing as communist international, communism, Zionism, Kabbalism, Platoism. They believe in a separation of the classes of people. Different levels where the elites control the managers and the managers control you and I. Just like the Hunger Games movie. Make no mistake about it. Socialism is not a good word. You don't own property. You don't travel where you want to. You live in a commune, a community. Usually probably something like small boxes, tiny houses. And you can see all of the public media and videos, how they're even bringing the popularity to tiny homes and austerity living off the land, growing your own tomatoes and food. They need for people to know how to survive. And then when the big event does happen, those people who are growing food on an acre of land or 5 acres of land and have some cattle, their food, their vegetables and resources will be confiscated. Usually they take 50, 60, 70% when they issue martial law. So it's just ironic to me that people are getting out in the country and starting their own 1 acre, but when they bring the system down, they will be confiscating your goods. And if people resist during these periods of revolutions, they're usually shot. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Came a man, Dag Hammarskjöld, and he was the second Secretary General. He was a Swedish socialist. He openly pushed communist policy, and then came U Thant, the third Secretary General, and he was a Marxist. So here you can see how the philosophy in the beginning was programmed. Now, I would like you to understand that this is not a method to go anti-capitalist, because the United States was a signatory of this charter. So why would the United States actually sign something that was so obviously contrary to their own philosophy? Well, if you remember the Hegelian principle, where two opposing viewpoints are set into the world and neither of them is really the viewpoint you want to achieve, what you really want to achieve is a synthesis between the two.
So in other words, like I've been saying, making my videos, there is a puppet master. Apparently these groups of people that are Satanist, they control the left and the right, the Republicans, the Democrats, the straights and the gays, the whites and the blacks. All this Hegelian dialectic divide and conquer. They control the Vatican, they control the Jesuits, they control the Zionists. And they pretend they're at odds with each other, when in reality, as we've seen by these names, Arthur Balfour, etc., there are puppet masters. There are pyramidal structures. You can go look it up. I've shown the charts. A very tiny few at the top control the dialogue between the left and the right.
So what you see actually is you see socialists in the overriding capacity of secretary generals, although Whether they have Marxist leanings or capitalist leanings at that level doesn't make any difference. The method is just to bring about a synthesis, which is the desired government of all of them. So out of this chaos, you eventually get whatever you want. Now, U Thant, he was, of course, one of the earliest Secretary Generals. He said, world federalists hold before us the vision of a unified mankind living in peace under a just world order. The heart of the program, a world under law, is realistic and attainable.
And apparently that quote by Tom Huggins, as you can see below, Let's Abolish War, Denver, Colorado, 1986. So you can see the United Nations all along. This is why they brought us World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more. Economic depressions and recessions and all of this. These puppet masters, which are clearly into a satanic religious cult, have been working towards the global world order, and they need to bring about all the suffering and problems so that the people eventually will plead with these people to take control, when it's these people who are creating the problems. It's been going on for quite a while.
Just to remind you of what we have said before. And of course, behind the scenes, always, you have the papacy. As you can see in all of these lectures, the papacy always very heavily involved. Here is Pope Paul VI with Secretary General U Thant. Now this man was a Marxist. Or let's rather put it this way. Publicly, he pushed a Marxist agenda. But if he was a true insider, then he had neither agenda, and this was just for an appearance sake, as Hegel also said. So it is not surprising that here we have a handshake with another Secretary General whose name was Waldheim. Now, what was the agenda, or what was the political view of Waldheim? Anybody know? He was a Nazi. Yes. So you can see the Hegelian philosophy coming out here. There you have Marxism, antithesis. There you have Nazism, thesis, in between, synthesis. So it didn't really matter which of the philosophies they espoused, as long as the end result was the same.
Think about that. The secret societies, Vril Society, Thule Society, brought us Nazism, Hitler, Göring, Germany. These same secret societies brought us the Bolshevik invasion after World War I, Communist Russia. These same secret societies with their symbols, Moloch, the owl, the street designed for Washington, D.C., controlled the United States. In the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1913, they controlled the U.S. money. So these puppet masters are creating all these oppositions, communist against Nazism and socialism against capitalism and other race issues and anti-Semitism. They need to keep the chess game going, to keep two players or more and keep them at odds with each other. That's how they attain their goal. And apparently, it's a fulfillment of biblical prophecy, with the climax being the arrival of an antichrist character and the banishment of believing in any other deity, God, than the one that they proclaim to be the God, the Antichrist. And those who will not embrace the Luciferian satanic Antichrist character that comes along will be, I guess, punished by beheading. So it's said. And you can look up on the internet, and apparently the government purchased 30,000 guillotines. And of course, we all know about the FEMA camps and Jade Helm 2015, where they were testing the AI, artificial intelligence software, with all the pretended martial law events going from door to door. They've been practicing and readying for this big event. Does anybody actually not believe that? Do they think all of this just is not going to happen with the 300 plus years of preparations and aligning itself with biblical prophecies and aligning itself with Islamic prophecies? So you have to wonder, I guess the heaven world does send prophets or communicate with certain men or women to relay information to we the people. So why is it surprising that these Kabbalistic satanic cults who are into spiritual communication, why would it surprise us that they might not be communicating with the beings from the underworld?
Pope Paul VI, by the way, is the first one to introduce this bent cross or broken cross. Let's read about what this means. Pope Paul VI wrote a papal encyclical that called on the nations to abandon sovereignty to form a world government.
That's pretty clear. The Pope, the first one to introduce the broken cross, wants nations to abandon their freedom and to put themselves under the control of a world government, which is satanic. Again, I say, tell me where I'm wrong by my rationalizing and analyzing this information.
So the Pope himself was behind this and actually called for such a government. And about this twisted cross, here's the quote for you. Paul VI made use of a sinister symbol used by Satanists in the 6th century that had been revived at the time of Vatican II. This was a bent or broken cross on which was displayed a repulsive and distorted figure of Christ, which the black magicians and sorcerers of the Middle Ages had made use of to represent the biblical term mark of the beast. Interesting quote. Yet not only Paul VI, but his successor, the two John Pauls, carried that object and held it up to be revered by the crowds, who had not the slightest idea that it stood for Antichrist.
Well, that's enough of this video. It's 1.5 hours long. I highly, and thank you very much to the commenter on my videos in the series that I have, Freemasonry and Satanism, and my other series, the New World Order Media and Press Releases, and my live streaming videos, and my videos on dumping chemicals in the sky, etc. Thank you for giving me these different pieces of information, because I do go look into the people and videos you recommend, and this information is just amazing, and it comes from amazingdiscoveries.org. Again, I ask, what is it going to take to get people to wake up? Go watch this video, and apparently it has 36 videos with this kind of information. Thank you for listening to me, watching this video, and making some comments. Rick Miracle reporting. So I hope you could see that short series of clips provides, in my mind, some kind of indication what has gone on in our world, what is going on. Here's another website, theendtimestruth.com, and you can watch these pictures to the right while I read from the left. The time of the end, the recent fulfillment of end times biblical prophecy, proves that we are now living in the last days. Predictions made thousands of years ago are coming true in our generation as never before. This means that the return of Christ is drawing near, and there is not much time left before judgment comes. The current world system of evil is about to end in a fiery conflagration, and a spectacular new world of peace will be set up in its place by the Lord himself. You can escape judgment and become a part of the new kingdom through a simple act of faith. I think this is really, really important. The people who control our world are trying to destroy Christianity. The communists, Zionists, Satanists, Freemasons, Illuminati, call them what you will, Kabbalists, secret societies. It seems there's every indication that they are servants of the satanic forces and will welcome the arrival of some kind of antichrist entity. But Jesus provided a way out. I think it's important for people to contemplate this and do their homework. Use your discernment, as Corey Good said. You can't escape judgment and become a part of the new kingdom through a simple act of faith. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. John 14:6. Now is the time to escape safely by repenting of sins and believing in the Son of God. So believing that Jesus did come to earth, was rejected by the Pharisees, some of the Jews, 2,000 years ago, and was crucified, rose from the dead, and is prophesied to return. But before he returns, they have to rebuild King Solomon's temple. Then the Antichrist character can return. Then comes Armageddon, like you see in this picture. So this is history. These are websites you can look up, End Times Truth. I encourage people to take some time and read this stuff and discuss it with family and friends. I'm not a biblical teacher or any kind of preacher or religious scholar, but I can do some research and see what's going on around me. And after doing this for almost 15 years, this seems to be the case. So I got this little chart here. Chronology of Israel in the last days. So I could go through this chart, but I encourage you to go to this website, endtimestruth.com. Scroll down a little bit, you'll find this chart. But what's most significant to me and convincing is where we are today with President Donald Trump in 2018 recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And the temple religious authorities have made a coin with President Donald Trump's head on it. And the previous king who helped rebuild King Solomon's temple, Cyrus, his face is behind President Donald Trump's face. And on the top of the coin, it says Balfour Agreement, which connects us with World War I. So World War I, World War II, 9/11, President John Kennedy's assassination, and so much more. Recessions, depressions, and death and suffering and destruction and theft has been going on so that these people could get where they are today. That's what it seems like. And all these pages here, will there be a Russian, Turkish, Iranian alliance? Who's going to align with who? And recently, President Donald Trump sent a fleet of ships, including an aircraft carrier, off the coast of Iran. It was in the news. And apparently a fleet of planes, bombers, to borders of Iran, Middle East chaos in the wake of Trump's recognition of Jerusalem. So you have all this information and so much more. I was watching this video. I'll continue on here for a moment.
Juliet Hollister in 1960, the Temple of Understanding has one of its goals, the creation of a spiritual United Nations. In its work to promote understanding between religions on the basis of the oneness of the human family. Sounds good. The temple has numbered among its members and supporters such influential world servers as U Thant himself. Well, there's the Secretary General. You can't go much higher than that. Eleanor Roosevelt, That's interesting. Thomas Merton, Jawaharlal Nehru, Anwar Sadat, Radhakrishnan, in addition to the main center of New York. So these are the top movers. So this is not some sort of little organization operating somewhere in the wings. This is a hub organization. And from where did they operate? Well, they were based at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. That must be getting pretty boring by now, right? Always the same thing. The temple has active chapters in India, in the UK, representatives in Africa, Latin America, Asia, Middle East. This is a universal movement to bring all religions together.
Do you understand? There's so much anybody can go look at to verify this. Look at the videos over here to the right. The collapse of the American Empire. Another website here, Historist.com, the multiple witness of Scripture. Another one here, 4winds10.com. Says here, people, listen up. This is a priority 1 situation. Warning, 2012-12-21 is coming soon. So this threat, this information has been out there for a while. Nobody knows the date. That's what it says in the Bible. Who is behind the planning of the one world government? The Zionist, Freemason, Illuminati, Jews, New World Order, occult? So I believe it's all of these organizations having one puppet master. They all have the similar satanic, Luciferic, Moloch, Baal, demon, Kabbalistic symbols. The United Nations is owned by the Zionist, Freemason, Illuminati, Jews, New World Order, occult. You see, it took me a while to get to this point, but there is a higher force being the puppet master, controlling our world, bringing us World War I, World War II, 9/11, and the ships now moving off the coast of Iran and the threats to Venezuela. Who knows what World War III will be like? So what have these Zionist Jews planned for us Gentiles? Gentiles, of course, is non-Jews. A North American Union, a European Union, African Union, Asian Union, Central of Power, World Government, Headquarters, the United Nations, Bank, Ruthless Army, Fascist Military Dictatorship, Totalitarian, Oppressive, Tyrannical Government, Real ID Cards. Apparently the real ID cards, your driver's license, will have to have a federal endorsement by 2020. Employers, Socialist, United Nations. Socialist, of course, is Communist. You can call that Satanist and Zionist, where the elite control the controllers and the controllers control we people. The property owners will be the Zionist, Illuminati Jews, will own all the property worldwide. The rest of us will be serfs, slaves. World owner, one supplier of food. Microchip implanted in your arm with all your history, ID, and banking. There will be no free enterprise system. You won't even be able to barter. They have cameras everywhere, smart meters, smartphones, smart TVs, smart cars. They'll know everything. Everybody who comes to visit you. Everything you say, everything you do, everywhere you go. Look at this long list. There will be no more cash, no more elections, no more protest marches. Terrorist. There will only be one terrorist in the world today, and they are the Zionist Jews, according to this website. And I did look up World Goodwill Newsletter from the Lucas Trust, working hand in hand with the United Nations. And Lucas Trust, of course, used to be called Lucifer Trust, part of the Theophist Society. And I found plenty of information on that. Esoteric astrology, esoteric healing, esoteric psychology. So all this New Age consciousness of the atom, the destiny of nations, a treatise on white magic, a treatise on cosmic fire. Here's a cool one I found. World Invocation Day. Do you know what invocation is? It's when you summon some kind of being, some kind of entity. Abracadabra, hocus pocus. So you'll find a lot of that in the Kabbalist New Age material. Yoga, meditations, and of course they do it on special days, solstices, equinoxes. And it says here, World Invocation Day has been observed on the day of the Gemini full moon. So they have to do these invocations to invoke spiritual energies of light. You can read the second sentence down. The great invocation is used to invoke spiritual energies of light, love, and purpose. So there you have it. Thank you for watching this video. Leave a comment, a thumbs up. Let me know what you think. If you have some information to add, I'll go look into it. A lot of this information you have seen in these videos were because I received comments from my viewers and I went and looked it up. Rick Marrico reporting.